Some years ago, Bill sent me this hand drawing he made of J-Rod 1, as he himself became known as J-Rod 2. Note the skull, the hands, and long, strong fingers, and the alien's demeanour. This is not a proud but rather scared-looking being, huddled up in an army jacket. The alien's hands are strong and heavy-boned, with long, strong fingernails. Bill was to be seen wearing a logo with J-Rod 3 on it. Who or what this refers to remains unknown. Bill gave me this photograph of a pilot wearing a Gray's fake mask in the cockpit of a US Air Force tank buster jet. This posed photograph reveals much about J-Rod. It shows it's an allowed US Air Force picture of an alien on a US Air Force base. It tells us we have aliens in our bases and we work with them, and they fly our craft and we do theirs. UHOUSE is described in the Desert Rat with the codename J-Rod. J-Rod spent most of his career at the test sites, one of which appears to be in the Los Alamos laboratories in New Mexico. He does not talk about specific facilities, but does mention Area 51 as the test site in the interview that follows. UHOUSE states directly that they want the leaks. They don't want to be caught out in the big lie. UHOUSE mentions 4 types of aliens that he dealt with. One of them were the Greys. He describes their planets and their culture. Bill agreed to talk to me on camera, so we give you the entire Bill UHOUSE interview on a late, sunny afternoon in December in eastern Nevada. Well, it's
but you can watch.
It's Bill UHOUSE. Tell us what's going on, what's happening.
In what areas?
51 UFOs. What's happening down on the alien bases?
Alien down underneath.
Yeah.
Last September I gave a lecture up at Rachel, Nevada with Anthony Hilder. And of course Anthony was looking for certain information and asked me if I've ever been to, on the test site. And I had, but only on various different particular projects. They were small projects, but not for any extended period. So 3 weeks now, maybe a month, at intervals. But they were all on specific projects, not necessarily to do with flying saucers. There were some questions on the tunnels out there at the test site. And they questioned me whether I had been in tunnels, and I had been in tunnels. As far as the nuclear aspect is concerned, they have built tunnels for testing of various devices in certain mountains out there. And also they've drilled and exploded bombs, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 feet below the desert floor. But on a specific tunnel that I was in, you could fit 2 locomotives going in either direction, plus a center road with a tractor-trailer truck for hauling parts and stuff. I know that of only one tunnel that I've been in where we did some testing of a particular item, and this was about approximately 6 miles into the mountain. In a facility in that mountain that was specifically set aside for my group and my team. Those particular items that I worked on was basically technologically some science that was related to flying disc, but not necessarily for a flying disc. It was for a different project. There's so many different projects out there, and of course the facility that I worked at, that there's just too numerous to mention. Plus I can't identify code names, and I can't identify companies, although there are a number of different representatives from various different companies that are completely involved in this alien technology and the transfer of technology for the new aircraft or the flying discs. In some cases, the Aurora, where they tested various different devices. In some cases, the F-117, where they had applied some of this technology for certain devices in the craft to more or less test them out, just like any other program that would test a new item out on something that we know how to fly, and it's a little bit different than a flying disc in that application.
So what are the latest technologies that they're using out there, the latest craft? You mentioned earlier about simulators.
I only had to do with simulators, and as you know, when they design a new craft or a company develops a new craft, there's always a simulator that's being built right alongside of the craft that they're going to fly. Whether it's the F-117 or the Aurora or any other new aircraft.
So are there alien discs out there?
Are there aliens out here at Area 51? I don't know of aliens out there at Area 51, though.
Are there areas that you prefer not to talk about or not?
There are aliens that I know of in other facilities throughout the country, but not at Area 51. There could be. I'm sure there is.
What type of aliens would it be?
The aliens that they have, there's only a few that are here. They're the Greys, or the grayish, so to speak, that type of individual. I don't understand this case about the reptilians. I know that where these individuals come from, it's not set up like here on Earth where you have the different races, the Chinese, Japanese, and so forth. The difference in those particular individuals, they're on different planets. For example, you got in the Zeta Reticuli star system, there's a number of different planets. There's Harlequin, there's Dorado, there's many others. For example, those particular individuals that are on each one of those planets do a different thing. They're not basically like we are set up here on Earth, okay? Well, I guess you could say that, for example, I'm talking about religion now, you got Buddhism, and you got the Mideast, Arabic, religions and so forth and so on. And you got the Catholics and so forth. It's not necessarily like that. It's they only have one religion, and it's not the same as we know it. Theirs is more or less a spiritual type religion. They don't have a church they go to. They don't go to church every Sunday. It's nothing specific like that.
So how does one know this?
How does one know that? Well, you have to go through a long period of I don't want to say acclimation, but it's a long period of understanding and knowing what questions to ask, and trying to understand how I got it. Okay, because that information, a lot of it is like asking me what they eat, or what do they want from us, and that type of thing. And each one of those from those different planets could be different in what they really want from this planet. It could be like, I don't understand the abduction scenario. I don't understand the various different, so they speak, number of different aliens that are supposedly coming here. From what I understand, there's maybe only no more than 6 different species, if that, and not the 70 or 73 that John Laird talks about.
So what other facilities would the aliens be?
Mostly the facilities that are located in Arizona, New Mexico. Delsey? It's a possibility.
So you're being non-specific, but they are in other areas.
I don't know all of the areas. I've never been really underground to determine that. Okay, it's like I said, I was in one underground facility. It was out here at Area 50, not necessarily 51, but it was in.
Are they all the same area?
Well, if you went into the test site, you've got certain orders. You go to a certain location, and unless you know the facility, if you walked in there blindly like yourself, or they took you for a ride, you wouldn't know where you are on that test site.
Bob Lazar, John Lear.
Bob Lazar, what he did, the reason why Bob Lazar was cleared was because of Teller. You know, a guy with that kind of clearance, it'd be pretty easy to get Bob Lazar in his facility. But, you know, and I can understand Bob going to the security. It's very degrading and you know, to the, if, for example, a young fellow like yourself going to a security like that, it would be maybe embarrassing, maybe degrading, or you would, you know, maybe not say the same thing over and over, because you'll go through a number of psychologists before they even say, hey, you're okay. You know, and not knowing what each one's going to ask you, you know, you may not even tell us. You might forget, or, you know, tell the story a little bit different, you know, and that'd kind of upset things. But what Bob Lazar's done in his demonstration of putting out this poster with these particular one craft that he called a sport model, from what I know, okay, it's fairly accurate.
So the model that you can buy in the shops, that Bob Lazar's marketing, is an accurate representation?
Well, it's an actual representative of what Bob Lazar knows and what he's seen at the test site.
So those discs are then man-made discs? Are they
That may have not been a man-made disc.
The S4 facility is an area just off the Papoose lake bed, dry lake bed. It consists of 9 hangars. The hangars have sloped doors on them with a sand texture coating. The first disc I saw, I believe it was the second, or I think it was the third time I was up there. Upon seeing it, it struck me that, well, this explains all the UFO sightings. Not thinking that it was an extraterrestrial craft, that this must have been some advanced form of fighter that we've been working on for years, and, you know, people have just caught it being tested, so on and so forth. And it never even occurred to me, even though I was looking at an extraterrestrial vehicle, that, you know, this wasn't man-made. I only witnessed one test flight up close, officially. That I was just inside the hangar. It was a low-performance test. The craft lifted off the ground, virtually noiseless, other than a small corona discharge on the bottom of the craft, indicating the presence of high voltage. That dissipated at about 30 feet, and it stood there completely silently, and moved over to the left and to the right, and sat back down. That was the entire test. It probably really hit me when I got inside the craft and looked around and began to understand how the craft was operated, and finally grasped the whole project as a whole, as what we were doing, the fact that we weren't building this thing, we were trying to find out how it was made. We were back engineering it.
As early as the 1950s, the government publicly acknowledged they were researching the UFO phenomenon in order to gain a technological advantage.
A squad of 20 fully equipped Marines board the flying saucer. A preview of what may be